Our next presenters are some local producers. And if you notice that pretty toy out in the parking lot, we can go out there in a few minutes after we show this presentation. So this is Jim Mott, fourth generation? Sixth generation farmer in Eaton County. How many years of no-till?
25.
Okay. And Jim had called the office last year looking for a crimper. And I had seen one hanging around the county for a while, and it hadn't been sold. And I thought, well, I'm going to see what I can do. So my meat tech and I, we sent out about 800 postcards to see if anybody would be interested in renting it. And we wanted to try to develop a program to get this crimper out and used. Make a long story short, the crimper got sold to another county. But the new owner graciously let us use it. So I'm so thrilled that John Ederle is here with us today. And we're going to share, Jim and John are going to share the story of this crimper.
Thank you, Sue. I'm going to give you a quick background where I came from, but I farm about 10 miles south here in Olivet. Grew up on a dairy farm, and then about 91, I got tired of the cows, so I sold them to my brother and started building houses. And so until 2008 when the market crashed and I'm no longer building houses. So I had time on my hands. I came back to the farm, helped Dad out. He passed away in 14, and then my wife and I purchased the farm in 15. Unlike Tim, when he came in when the prices were up there, my wife and I came in when they tanked. So after a couple of years, my wife was wondering, did we make the right decision? I said, I don't know. But I guess from my perspective, being new to the crop portion of it, writing checks for all these inputs, I'm like, this is crazy. I mean, this isn't sustainable. I mean, if the prices stay this way for a long time, you know, there's got to be something different. But it's always been a soybeans, corn, wheat rotation. Wheat was just kind of marginal, maybe 0.25% of the acres. Farming about 500 acres, and then so we did that. And the only reason we did it because we saw this guy in a magazine holding that big tuber, and so I asked Dad. I said, "What are cover crops? Never heard of them." He goes, "I'm not sure, so let's give it a try." So we were doing the radishes and the cereal rye for the first few years, and then I actually started doing green by accident. So in 2019, when we had all that rain, it couldn't terminate the cereal rye. It started getting taller and taller, and I just started panicking. I didn't know, what am I going to do? Because I always terminate it when it was like 6 inches tall. And so I decided, what the heck, I'm going to plant right through it. So, and it worked out. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. So that's when I really got started on following Dave, and everything I'm doing is pretty much following these guys, Dave, Gabe Brown, all those guys. But the field we're going to show you here is it was wheat, and then a few weeks after wheat, sprayed the Gromoxone to kill the weeds. Waited a couple weeks, let the wheat come up, volunteer wheat come up, killed that, and then planted the cover crops. It's a 10-way mix, and it's the one Dave. It's actually their cover crop mix, and then crimped it right after I planted the corn, and that's the 10-way mix. So this was after this field day we had out here, and this is just that 10-way mix, and this is right after I planted the corn. And that's John's roller. So, and I don't know if you caught it, Sue had planned to get me this roller that Jansen's had out in their lot. A week before I was ready to crimp this, she gives me a call. They sell it. I went, what? So fortunately, John was nice enough to rent it to me. So yeah, this was shortly after, and like Dave said, you know, when you're planning into this stuff, it's scary. I mean, is that stuff going to come up? My sister's house is right up here, and she's watching me do this. She goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm not sure, but we're going to give this a try." She goes, "There's no way that corn's coming up through there," but yeah, there it did, and then. Yeah, a little bit later, you can see all the thatch down there. And this spot right out here, that's a spring. And never ever planted into it. And I thought, well, this year I can, because it was dry until I went through it. And then the tractor planter sank and went out of sight. But yeah, and so this spot right here is what's that? That's okay. This spot right up here, you can go to the next one, is this spot here. And so what happened is I got a Kinsey planter and I had a Cyclo 900 IH a year ago, and I knew I was going to do this. So I need a planter that's, I think it's going to do a better job. So I got the Kinsey 3500 and got all the attachments on it. Wasn't real familiar because it's quite a bit different than that Cyclo 900 was. And so I started in by the road, and Sue took this picture by the road. And I didn't have the down pressure right. I didn't have it all the way. It should have been all the way down. I mean, all the down pressure I could have on it. I was going too fast, and I found out all this, later. But also, it was a dry spring. I mean, how dry it was. And so that's why we got a lot of bare area in here, and which I'm glad Sue took the picture, because this is the mistakes that you make when you're just doing this stuff for the first time. But inside, rows inside did pretty good once we got going, and we got a little bit of rain. So after I did that first part, but what amazes me is that there's a lot of grass here, but a lot of the area up there still suppressed the weeds, and I was really amazed about how good of a job that did. That never would have happened before. Can we go back one more slide? I wanted to show something. I forgot. So you see this plant right here, and it's got that long spindly whorl. John and I were talking. In fact, he asked me, he goes, I got a lot of this going on. You got any of that? And I said, yeah, I guess I do. Didn't know what it was, just kind of Googling it, see if I could find something. Well, maybe you guys know about it, but it's called rapid growth syndrome. And it's what happens when the ground's really dry and the corn's struggling, and all of a sudden you get a burst of rain, and corn starts shooting up, and I guess that's what it does. And there was quite a few plants that, it unfolded eventually, but yeah, I'm thinking, oh great, the cover crop did this. So I'm looking for things to blame the cover crop for, right? But yeah, you can go to the next line. And the other thing that kind of, I guess, scared me a little bit, around July 4th, my corn was still down here. Everybody else's corn it tossed a lot. There was a lot of corn around here that was tossing out second week in July. I'm like, oh man, it was looking ugly. Yeah, it was ugly at first. Yeah, right. And but yeah, it was ugly early on, but it came on, pretty good. So, but that's all I got, John.
You want to tell me you tried the conventional corn your first year?
Oh yeah. So I wasn't even thinking my first year. So I get some conventional corn because that's what I did the previous year. Had 170 bushel the acre. I'm going to do it this year, and then I realized, oh crap. I'm doing this, and I decided to go ahead and spray it also, because the ground was so dry, and I should have terminated it earlier, but I didn't. I wanted to crimp it. I wanted to crimp it so bad, because that was the plan, right? But I wanted to, what I should have done is sprayed, but also left a check strip so I could see if there was going to be a difference. If the spray was even needed. But I just, for precautionary reasons, I went ahead and sprayed it too. The crimping did a fabulous job. Some of the rye was trying to pop back up, but I just, for that comfort, I wanted to make sure that, because I couldn't come back and kill the grass, I'd kill the corn. So, but yeah, I'll probably next year go to a traded, but until I get more comfortable with this system. Yeah, Jim.
Did you side dress any more nitrogen for that?
This field, yes. No. This field, no. I actually was able to cut it in half because, Dave that's, he said, when I bought the seed, he said, you'll be able to cut your nitrogen in half. But I wanted to find out for sure. I just wanted to find out just exactly how much nitrogen was out there, so I did exactly what Dave did. I sent a sample into Regen, it's called Regen Ags. They do the same, the Haney test. And they come back, and with the soil test and the biomass that was in here, yeah, I was able to cut it back in half. For the
Hey, how many credits was in the ground, like July 4th?
No, I didn't get any kind of. You talking about carbon? Yeah.
Nitrogen credits. I mean, what was there available? I mean, we had such a dry spring,
Yep.
and then we had 90 inches of rain. I know what our corn took off lickety split once we got into that rainy season. And
Right.
mine was 4th of July, and then next thing you know, it's, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Where did we go?
Yeah. I don't know what that number was.
Okay.
I will say that, looking at the corn leaves in that test plot, there's no deficiency. The bottom leaves are all green. There's no
Yeah.
brown color in the midrib or anything.
Yeah, and that's what and I don't know
It
what.
didn't stress.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but everyone's corn around me, they're ready to harvest. My cousin's harvesting, the corn across the road. I mean, they're all harvesting because of the tar spot, but mine's still green. I don't know if that's conventional. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's rup seed. But yeah, it's looking normal.
What was your planting date?
This field, I think, was around May 28th, end of May. This was the first field, and then I've got a couple other fields that were 1st of June. So it's quite late. And I'll probably go to a shorter day corn from now on, just because I'll probably, if this ripens at normal, I'll be in late November probably. I think I've got a couple different ones in here. I think there's 102.
Whereas Thunder was the longest lease from us.
Oh, yeah.
94, 97, and 100 there.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. But I was gonna do 32,000, but it was so dry I backed it down to 26 to 28. But we got rain right after that, so I could have done the 32, but what do you don't know. So, but there are some bare spots because I needed to slow down. When I was doing 4.5 miles an hour, and with as dry as it was, and going through that biomass, it was starting to pick the row units up a little bit when it got into those hard areas. Yeah. Can you go back to the picture with the corn? Okay. Yeah, that's good. So down in here is really good soil. It's a low area, so you got some sandy loam. It's really good dirt. Up in here, beach sand, and that's the way the field is. So it varies. So and I was surprised. The cover crop, it was very dry last August when I put it in. So put it in, didn't get any rain for like 3 weeks. And so these sandy hills, it was pretty thin. I should have went back and, after we got some rain, and at least went out there with something and spread, some cover crop to get it going. But I didn't. But yeah, this field varies. But, it seems to be it's a little thinner on the hills. You can't tell it here, but it is when you look at it right now. Yeah, Jim.
On your cover crop again, so what do you think the pounds per acre was? Did you follow the recommendation of those pounds per acre per rye for the type of soils, or just to drill it in and?
This was all the 10-way mix. So it's designed to do kind of a 24-to-1 carbon nitrogen ratio, because I think that's the sweet spot. Yeah, so it's the mix is designed so you don't have, like Dave was talking about earlier, you don't have too much carbon, too much nitrogen, and so now you gotta back.
You can tell how dry, but just know what the germination rate was on everything was there.
Oh, on the cover crop?
You get 80%?
Yeah, probably. If that might have been on the high end just because it was so dry. But I couldn't believe the biomass that was out there, even as dry as it was. I mean, it was dry all spring. And I can't believe this stuff is growing like it is. And so when I crimped this, the hairy vetch wasn't quite, some of it was flowering, but it wasn't, 100. It should have the field should have looked like purple, and it was just kind of blotches of purple. So the crimson clover was really bright and red. A week later, I left a strip just to see once that hairy vetch got fully mature. It laid down like carpet. It pulled everything down with it, much better than what this did just a week earlier. So it flowered and got ripe that fast. I was surprised. So that's, in a good spring and a normal spring, it would have been perfect. But that's the way it was. Yeah.
You still have the 900 planter?
I sold it. It is a great planter, but I don't think it had.
Could have made it better.
I don't know that it had the downforce to get through a lot of this. It could have. I don't know. Maybe it would have.
I'll show you a picture.
You got using yours. You like the closing system on it? For
Closing system.
What's that?
I like the closing system. I designed a down pressure kit for a 900.
Did you?
So those do over 500 pounds.
Dang, I could have saved me $50,000.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it did because that corn planter, that 900, had not been used since 2009. Dad stopped doing corn so he could get to Florida, and so I started putting corn back in rotation in 20 because of the weed pressure and stuff like that. So, and then it did a great job though. Singulation was not the greatest, but
The 6 or 8.
8. Yeah. Yep.
I'll show you this and then you'll buy another.
Okay. Yeah, sell the one I got. John.
Hi, I'm John Ederle from DeWitt, and I've probably about the same story as Jim. I growing up on a farm my whole life, we had cattle up till about 12 years ago, or no, just about 20. Anyway, we converted everything over to crops, tore all the fences out. Nothing's been plowed. We haven't plowed any ground in probably 30 years. And a couple of years ago, I took over the farm from my dad, and so now I get to take credit for the good stuff and for the bad stuff when stuff was wrong. But anyway, I jumped in with both feet last year and planted cover crop on everything. All my beans were planted in green, and all the corn was too. Now I didn't have a mix because I hadn't really talked to Dave at all. Anyway, I just planted vetch and rye, and I crimped it, and before I planted it, which was a mistake as it turned out, because when I went to plant it, I couldn't tell where I was going. The markers will not go through that. So I ended up actually going out and buying a foam marker set up, put it on the, on the markers to tell where I was going. But as far as the crimper goes, it works great. The only issue with that one is, I think, is that and I'm going to make it a winter project to put another set of wheels on it, because it's an end toe. You set it on the ground, you get to the end of the field, you can't pick it up. And if you're going too fast, it'll actually push the tractor sideways, because there's that much torque on it when you're trying to turn it around at the end of the field. But that's about all I have, really. I mean, my corn is about the same stage as his, except I rolled it and then I sprayed the rye with Roundup, but I didn't put any 2,4-D in it. And because the hairy vetch is underneath it, and I figured that's got to come out of it before I'm going to get any chemical on it. Well, the hairy vetch started growing, and then the corn was just spindly, I mean, really spindly. And I went back and sprayed it, and then put about 100 pounds of nitrogen on it, 28%. And it came out of it. I was surprised. No.
So you put your nitrogen source on top of the soil, it wasn't nitrogen,
No, I put it on the applicator.
okay, so you,
Knifed it after the corn was up, yeah.
so you cut through the cover crop,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it cut through it easy, yeah.
you must have rolling folders on your nitrogen.
Pardon me?
You had rolling folders on your applicator?
Yeah, there's colders on the applicator, yeah.
That's how you
Yep.
got 28 into the ground.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, that worked out great. At that point, though, I still couldn't see where my rows were at. Because they were just coming up through the rye yet, you know, it was there, but I could not believe how it took off. Like I said, mine was the same way. It wasn't knee high by the 4th of July. But from that point till the first part of August, it tousled. Good years on it now. But any other questions?
Yeah, what kind of down pressure are you guys talking about when you're trying to get corn planted into, what kind of setups do you have to have on a planter to get corn where it needs to be?
Well, the one thing that I think I learned from him is that,
I know the soil makes a big difference.
right, one thing you don't want to have is row cleaners because they take pressure off of your unit. They're taking a lot of pressure to move stuff away, row cleaners. So I'm just running straight colder. That's it.
You're running
Just a colder with openers.
no-till colder and
No, there's no no-till colder. Just disc opener. That's it.
just a smooth disc opener or?
Well, the twin openers.
The twin opener?
Yeah.
You don't
But
think you
the
would
smooth
gain?
ones are not like the SDP, the prescription.
Mine's just straight what comes on the planter.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I have. It's a white 8,000 planter. And then we actually added weight into the insecticide boxes to put more weight on those units because it wasn't cutting in far enough. I'd go 100 yards or whatever and then check it right behind, the openers, and it wasn't getting down good enough, so I had to put more weight on it.
Are you running the springs?
Yeah, I've got springs on it. And then I've got Yetter closing wheels, the spike closing wheels, and those seem to work great.
So if you were to run a conventional ground, say where you just come out where you've done the crimping, do you think that planter would have buried the seed?
What?
So I'm just kind of curious because I know there's a lot of material on top of the ground after crimp.
Right.
Was that what was keeping that crust wheel and get the seed deeper in the ground?
Well, I set it down 2.5 inches too, to get that seed down there where it should be.
But you're rolling after you plant, right? You're crimping after you.
No, I crimped before I planted, and it was dead. It wasn't blue like you were talking about. But once it's dead, you can cut right through it. But I think the way to do it though is to do it green. But I worry about how much nitrogen that's going to take up, to convert the rye. And I put quite a bit extra, liquid on when I planted to kind of make up for that deficiency that was going to be there.
Jim, did you plant everything before you crimped, or didn't you?
I did.
You did? Okay.
And you can see where you're going too, couldn't you?
Oh, yeah, it was like, it was a nice, it part of the cover crop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Once it's on the ground, it won't do that.
That was by accident. I don't know why I decided to do it crimp afterwards, but I just did. And then once I started planting, I realized that I'm in the right place right here.
But I guess the biggest issue with the rolling of the rye is need to wait till it's at anthesis. In other words, when it's flowering. Otherwise, that stem is still got spring in it, right? And it doesn't snap off. Right. And I was going to ask you that, have you come up with a different variety that's got a thicker stem on it that will snap off easier of rye?
Some new varieties are, yes.
Okay.
They haven't hit the market yet.
Okay. But that would be ideal for what we're doing though.
John, did you plant into straight rye to your corn or was it a mix?
That was rye and vetch.
Okay.
Yeah. And the vetch wasn't, I think I put 5 or 10 pounds on maybe, not a whole lot. Because I knew it was going to be a problem, with wrapping and stuff, and everything on the planter.
Any idea what that crimper weighs?
I can't, I could look it up. Actually, the manual's in and out there, we can look at it.
When I was talking to Dave earlier, he talked about maybe 3 sets of 4 to get the same job done, one because of that box, and that way you wouldn't have a funky mess. And I thought, well, maybe his 4-footers weigh a third as much.
They weigh as much per pound.
Yeah.
I think they're 500 to 600 pounds per foot. I think that's about what it is, yeah. Yeah. But if you can't lift that thing up when you get to the end of the field, you tear the field up. You know, and that's not what I want to do. So that's going to be a project. I'll put another set of wheels on it, so when I get out in the field, I can drop those down and be able to lift it.
Do you have plans in the future to incorporate cover crops into, you know, into your sustaining soybeans, sustaining corn, you know, with another, kind of like how you have that highway machine, you have a.
I would like to have someone try using a drone. Put the small seed in right over the corn or soybeans, and then, well, soybeans will put wheat after that anyway. But after the corn's off, you can broadcast rye on there, and I know that grows. It worked great last year, just broadcasting it on the corn stalk.
What was the date of them broadcasting that, right?
It's well into November. You didn't get corn done until end of November. And it grows all winter long. Yep. Any more questions? Thanks.
Okay.